Hello and welcome to the Level 1 course on offshore platforms. This will cover the basics of offshore platforms. I am Saurabh Kumar, Btech Honors IIT Kharagpur with 18 years of experience in the offshore oil and gas industry, and I'll be your guide for today and throughout this course. So let's start with deciding or discussing why we need offshore platforms. We need offshore platforms for a variety of purposes. They have been used for multiple purposes throughout the world over time, and one of the most important purposes that they have been used for are extraction of crude oil and gas from offshore sources from the seabed, and so that is one of the most important applications. But there are other applications also why they are used on offshore oil and gas industry. Now, one thing we must understand is that the design of the structure, the type of structure, is strictly decided by water depth of in which it is being placed. So in the early years we had shallow water, deep water, and ultra deep water. Nowadays it has been expanded to shallow water, mid water, deep water, and ultra deep water. Shallow water is considered anything up to 1,000 feet. Mid water is considered 1,000 to 5,000 feet, and deep water is 5,000 to 7,000 feet. Whereas ultra deep water can be anything beyond 7,000 feet. Normally it is up to 12,000 feet, but it might progress so in the future. The depths might be more, and the definitions might be rewritten. So let's see now what type of structures are there in the oil and gas industry. Uh, so we have fixed leg platforms, compliant leg platforms, and FPSOs. So this picture shows you a brief description of what type of structures we use for the oil and gas industry. Firstly, there is fixed leg platform, compliant towers are there, and then you have the FPSO and tension leg platform. Uh, so design of offshore platforms is a very challenging subject. It sees the best minds of civil engineering working on it. General purpose FE programs or customized programs are used to simulate offshore conditions and the structure, and analysis is thus carried out. Different types of analysis might be in place analysis, transportation, load out, installation, mud mat design, boat landing design, lift analysis, and spectral fatigue analysis, many others. And analysis has to be done in rigorously before one can feel confident of going to fabrication and installation. Now, getting into some history of offshore structures, I would like to mention three structures which were forerunners of our modern offshore platforms. The first one was in Baku in Soviet Union, 1949, and that was called Oil Rocks. It is about 45 to 50 kilometers offshore from in the Caspian Sea, and it is almost a functional city with more than 5,000 inhabitants working shifts on it. So that is quite a prolific figure. Then we come to Thames Seaforts. Now these were smaller, very small structures, but they were predecessors of modern offshore oil platforms, having been constructed in a very short time during World War II, and they were then flooded to their location and placed on shallow bottom on the Thames estuary. And the third one was Monzel Seaforts. The Monzel Seaports it was again a forerunner of modern oil platforms, oil and gas platforms, and they were used during the Second World War to provide security to the United Kingdom. They were named after Guy Monzel, who was their designer. And finally, they were decommissioned in the 1950s when their use was no longer considered valid. So they were decommissioned in 1950s and used for other purposes. Thank you very much, friends. This ends the first chapter on offshore structures, and we will be discussing a lot of different aspects as we go along. In each module, there will be a different subject discussed. So just stay tuned. Thank you very much. Goodbye.